Hey guys, what's up? It's TG here. All right, we have to have a conversation. We got to talk about tariffs, man. We got to talk about it. And this isn't something where I'm going after Trump and I'm trying to attack him. No, I want to talk about something that's been disturbing me that I keep hearing from uh, uh, like people who are retailers, big supermarket chains. Everyone on the news is like, "Oh my God, with a 25% increase um, to goods coming from Canada, all our prices are going to go up 25%." They don't have to. They don't have to go up 25%. Let's look at this. There's this guy. I want to use him as an example. So this is on Fox News. Actually, I took this from the David Pakman show. This clip, but let's watch it real quick. It's not that long.
Jeep Dodge Ram
Yeah,
impact.
dramatic, dramatic. I sold order for a customer, $80,000 truck. It's $100,000 now, so he's not going to buy the truck. It's going to sit on my lot.
It's $100,000 now. So he's saying, okay, I'm going to take 25% of 80,000, which is 20,000, and I'm going to increase the cost by that much, the sales price. Let's keep listening.
At the higher interest rates we're paying right now for floor plan, and nobody's going to buy the truck because it just had a $20,000 price increase.
Right. Kelly Blue Book will put the number up. They say the average vehicle will go up by about $3,000. Does it sound right to you?
No, it will not. We don't have the broad stroke. We don't have the linear, the tight strokes. But to me, it's a 25% tariff. So that affects our parts that come from over these countries, and a whole bunch of our cars.
And you've been basing your business model on free trade, basically. This is what the American auto.
That's one thing I do want to get back to a conversation on. He says you've been basing your business model on free trade. It's kind of a jab.
Automakers Policy Council says, Maria, in response to this. They say our American automakers invested billions in the U.S. to meet the requirements of the current free trade agreement. They shouldn't have their competitiveness undermined by tariffs that'll raise the cost of building vehicles in the U.S. and stymie investment in the American workforce while competitors from the outside of North America benefit. The German, there's no tariff on the German cars coming in now.
No.
Now, another thing I want to point out, we will talk about it again. They said that they built their business model based on the current trade agreement. Well, they're talking about I think it's called the USMCA, the USMCA. I think he said MCA. I have to look it up, but because it should have been USMXCA, but I think it's USMCA. Basically, the new NAFTA that was signed in 2020 when Trump was in office, because this was a new deal that Trump negotiated. So this man just said, "Hey, you've been getting free trade based on the current agreement. The current agreement is the agreement that Trump signed."
Japanese.
They're going to be okay, but think about it. We built our business around that. The OEMs built their business around that, and now it changes on a dime, and we can't build a $4 billion plant overnight in the United States. So I think building in the United States is great. I think enhancing the participation from the other countries on the other things, but this is pretty radical.
I hear you.
So the diagnosis is pretty.
Okay, so what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about a couple things. Thing number one, before we get into the math of it, thing number one is we're getting these new tariffs. They're coming through, and the point of the tariff is supposed to deter you from buying something that's coming from another country. So if the prices go up for this Dodge Ram, maybe I'm gonna buy maybe I'll buy like another Dodge product that's made here, or another like a Chevy or a Ford, because they're more, they're more cost effective. So that is the point of the tariff. Okay, so what happens? This guy is a dealer. He buys this Dodge Ram. It comes from Canada. When it comes from Canada and it hits the border, the U.S. Customs will stop them and they will look at the invoice. They call it a commercial invoice of how much does this cost? How much is he purchasing it for? Then they will do a tariff based on that price. So he's going to have to pay 25% more of his cost. This is what I want you to catch on. It's 25% of his cost. So then he gets it into his dealership. He puts it on the floor. Guy comes in, says, "I need a truck." and he sells the guy the truck. He says he's selling it for 80,000, but he says now he has to raise it 20,000. No, he does not. And this is what a lot of suppliers are. They're saying it really quickly. They're saying it like, "Oh my God, oh, just Trump this, Trump that." No, no, no. You guys, you got your hand in this cookie jar just as much. Let's go through the math. So I just did like a quick little sheet here. It's just a quick little sheet here. Let's move it over so my face isn't all up on it. Okay, so we just did a quick thing. I don't know how much he pays for the truck. I made an assumption. So we're gonna make this like an assumption. So I made the assumption that he's paying $50,000 for this truck that he says he's selling for 80,000, which is still a good profit of 38%. Okay. Now, right now, he's not paying any tariffs on that. And let's assume, we're not looking at logistical costs. I'm not looking at administrative costs. We're looking at just profit margin of just buying this truck and selling for 80,000. So he's making a $30,000 profit. Okay, which is pretty good. 38%. Maybe he sells 100 of them. That's what, like 3 million. It's pretty good. Yeah, 3 million. So, and that would be profit dollars. So this is one thing that a lot of people don't look at. You have to look at cost of goods, COGS, and you have to look at revenue. These are not the same. These are not the same. When you go to the store, when you go to Kroger and you're buying avocados, they're saying avocados are $3 right now. I think they're $2.79, but let's just say $3. The Kroger isn't paying $3 for those. Kroger is paying a smaller amount, and then they upcharge that so that they can make a profit. So this guy is paying 0% right here. Because I got zero is a formula, right? 80,000. Okay, so Trump says, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to increase this by 25%. So we're going to do 0.25. Okay. Now Trump's taking. I'm going to say Trump's take because he's taking his hand in the cookie jar during this deal, and he's saying I want 2,500. I mean 12,500. Okay. So now the guy isn't making 30,000, and he's not making 20. He's making 22% now. So that's a big dip to his inventory. I mean to his business. So you're like, yeah, he has to raise the price. But think of it this way: if he raises his price to how much did his cost to his business, how much did that go up? It went up 12,500. Okay, that's not $20,000. That's 12,500. And these suppliers are saying, oh, we're just passing it, we're doing a straight pass. Bullshit, you're not doing a straight pass. You were sitting there saying, okay, well, Trump's going to take a little extra, I'm going to take a little extra too. So what they're going to do, he says he's going to take it and make it $100,000. That gets him back at his 38%. But now he's making 7,500 extra per car than he was before. So for his trouble, I suppose you could say, because he's got to have the money up front because he can't sell you that car until he gets it across the border. So he's got to pay this 12,000. I keep want to say 2,500. He's got to pay this 12,000 before he can even sell it to you, which means he's got to have the capital. So let's say he's buying 100 cars. I mean, I know I can do the math, but I'm just doing it for the screen. If he's buying 100 cars, fat fingers, he's got to have, let's say he's buying 100 of these Dodge Rams. He's got to have $1.2 million in the black. He's got to have that as an investment before he can even get this car on the lot, these cars on the lot and sold to you. But he's making was it 7,500 I said extra? He's going to make, again, I'm just doing this for the screen so you can see it, so I'm not just saying numbers. He's going to make over $500,000, and it's an increase in his business. So that's all predicated on the fact that people will still buy these cars at 100,000, and that's one of the things he said. So there's it's like a seesaw. There's different ways we can go with this. If business stays the same, if he can keep that business the same, and if he can have that 1.2 million money capital to invest extra into his cost, then he can actually end up making an extra on top of what he's already was making. He can make over half a million, a quarter of a million. What am I saying? $250,000 extra. And like I said, I don't know how many cars they sell. Maybe they sell 200, 200 or and then that is also goes into cash flow, right? Because you got to have your cash flow. You got to be pulling in cash as you're spending cash, pulling in cash as you're spending cash. So it goes into his cash flow. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of suppliers are looking at. But like I said, he doesn't have to. So let's look at, okay, so if he did a straight pass, right, then this would be 92,500. Now his margin would not be the same, and it's just a weird way margin works. But so he doesn't have to. So he can go in halfway. Well, not even halfway, but he can go in with the consumer and say, okay, well, I'm gonna do a straight pass. So instead of charging you $100,000, I'm just gonna give you 92,500. Now a lot of suppliers probably don't want to do that because it's almost telling if they say it's a straight pass, or they can say it's a straight pass. Maybe he just says, I'll just do 95,000. So, he's still making a little extra, 2,500 extra. And that's what I think a lot of these suppliers are going to do. I think a lot of these suppliers, they're not happy about it because it's disrupting the way that they do business and it's disrupting their pricing. And they're not sure, like I said, it's like a seesaw. If they can't keep the business, the units the same, then they have to increase price. But if they can keep the units the same, they don't have to increase the price that much. They can do just like, a 5% or a 10% or something like that as far as an increase in the sales price. But they're not doing a straight 25%. And it's not 25% on the retail price. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous that they would be doing that. So for people who understand, people understand. Now, when he gets back into let's talk about the conversation where the interviewer was saying, "Oh, well, you've been doing business on 0% or free trade of tariffs." Okay, and he said, "Well, the dealer said, well, this is how the OEMs, which is the original manufacturer, this is how they built their pricing model. This is how they built their business. They built their business on not having to pay these tariffs." Well, I could also make that argument about waiters, people who wait tables. And a lot of you don't have a problem with people who wait tables making 213 an hour. And you're like, well, if they don't want to make that, they can just go somewhere else and get a job. But the whole business is based on waiters not making money. Servers, we call them servers. It's based on that. So you have a restaurant that bases their business model. If you go into a restaurant and say, oh no, you got to pay these people, $8 an hour. It's like, no, no. This business model is based on them getting paid 213 an hour, which is like nothing, and for you, the consumer, for you to pay their their wages. Because and when I was a server, I would do really well. I could make over $100 in a shift. Some shifts I did really well, and I could make even up to 150. I think the most I've ever made in a shift was 200. It was a really really long. Oh my god! Imagine imagine being on a racetrack and you're just running for 8 hours, 9 hours straight, and you can't stop. So, anyway, the point of what I wanted to make this video is I just wanted to talk about that because I keep seeing it on the news, and then I just saw this where the guy says, "Oh, it's 25%, so I have to increase consumer. I have to increase your price by 25%." No, no, you don't. You don't because you're going to. You're going to so that you can make up the extra. And you're acting like a little squirrel. You're putting in some more acorns in there. And I get it because you're trying to do right here. You're trying to make sure that you have that extra in your bank account so that you can pay these tariffs before you can even sell the car. So that is also a really good point. And I had made a video. I took it down because I got a lot of flack. But I had made a video about how this is going to give bigger businesses an advantage over smaller businesses. Because do you think some small dealership on the side of the road that has maybe only 100 cars in their lot, you think they got this 1.2 million that they can pay up front? They don't have that. They don't have it. And what is it going to do? If the some businesses they're just gonna dip out. They're just gonna take their ball and go home. Some businesses they're gonna go back to the banks and they're gonna try to survive. They're gonna try to tread water, and they're in the deep end. They're going to go back to these banks. They're going to try to get loans so that they can have this money up front, so they can get the cars in, and then they're going to do the same damn thing right here. They're going to go and say, "Whoa, do a I got to do a straight, 25% on the retail." But when they go to these banks for this extra money that they don't have, the banks are going to get them. They're going to get them with this interest, and it's not going to pay off. It's not going to pay off. So they're either going to have to get new investors, or they're gonna have to figure it out. And I think what's gonna happen is a lot of these bigger businesses that can do it, they're gonna look around, they're gonna see these small guys struggling, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, oh, you little strong, you little." I wanted to make it be funny. "You little small guy. Oh, I feel bad for you. Hey, how about I buy your dealership from you? Oh, you think it's worth like 2 million? I think it's worth like 1.2 million." And that's what's gonna happen. The bigger fish are going to eat the smaller fish, and they're going to grow and expand, and those dealerships will get bigger, and Trump's take will keep going up. And it's like, when I keep saying Trump's take, it's like, well, what does Trump want to do with that? Let's reword it. That's what he wants to do with that. he is he's doing almost like a service, a product service kind of business right now. He's storing money. He's doing this to kind of get. He's got to pay for those tax cuts. And I think they already passed it. It's like 4 trillion or something like that. I have to look it up, but I think they've already passed it last month in February. So what he has to do now is he's got to pay for it. He's got to fundraise, and that's what he's doing. He's fundraising. And if he does that and he gives the tax cuts, then it's going to come back to this big business, because this big business is going to get a bigger tax cut. So this bigger business is going to raise the price on everything, and then they're going to get a tax cut. So this guy at this dealership saying, "Oh no, 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 no." The only risk he has is units. This is the only risk he has. Let's say he has, let's just say, I don't know numbers. Let's just say 2,000. Let's just say he sells 2,000 cars in a year. I have no idea. Okay. If you know the right number, then you just, be patient with me. He's selling, let's say he's selling 2,000 cars a year, 2,000 of this car. Let's just do that. Okay. Let's just do the units. Okay. So now he has the sales units. Okay. So so for the year. Okay. So this is year. Okay. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do these as a year. Okay. You have to forgive me because I do these things. Okay, so for the year, he's got to have this dealership for this car. Um, for the year, he's going to spend per car. Well, not per car, but for the year, he's going to spend. Oh crap! Look at that. Let's take that off. I hate it when I have zeros and the number's huge. That's $25 million. Okay, so he's got to have $25 million, and I don't know if he's going to buy these cars all up front. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to. You're probably buying like at this point, like, I said 2,000, so you're probably buying like 500 at a time, or let's just say buying 500 at a time. So let's just say that. So if you're buying 500 at a time, right? 500. Oh, that's not five, it's four. All right, so it's about 6.2 million every time you buy, right? You got to have that up front. That's a lot of money, though. That's a lot of extra money that you got to have up front. But how much money is he making every year? Well, let's say what's his profit? Yearly profit's going to be 75 million. So that's not bad. 75 million. And but that's 75 million. Okay. 75 million. Let's do let's just do 30,000. He was making 60 million. He's making $15 million more a year. 15 million, because he has the benefit of having his 25 million in the bank. That small dealership down the street, they ain't got that. They ain't got it. They ain't got it. So small fish is gonna start dying. You're gonna start seeing them floating in the water. These big dealerships, they're gonna go and they're gonna take over. And then the question, here is the risk that these dealerships, because they know what Trump's doing. And you know what? They're back there in their back rooms and they're having conversations and they're like, well, let's watch and see. Because we need the American people to still give us 2,000 units a year. That's what we need. And if these 2,000 units go away, then we're going to point at Trump. So they're all sitting there looking at Trump saying, I better still get my units. Better still get them. But that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I think a lot of people, they're not really looking at this. They're saying, "Oh, my avocados are gonna go up 25%," or I don't remember what the percent is was for Mexico. I think Mexico was lower. I think was it Canada the highest? I can't remember. But the main point I'm trying to hit home is here. The tariff is on the cost that the supplier pays. It's not on what you pay, but the supplier is going to increase their cost because they're not going to sacrifice any margin. They're not going to do it. They have stakeholders. The stakeholders aren't going to go for it. And honestly, like I said, you have to pony up the money ahead when you're paying your commercial invoice. So honestly, yeah, I need to raise money for my business so that I can pay this ahead of time for my cash flow. So I kind of retract my statement. He does have to increase the cost, but it's not 25% increase. It's more than that as far as for the I mean it's 25. He's increasing his sales price by 25%, but it's not a straight pass through, is what I'm trying to get at. Last thing I wanted to talk about, because now I'm getting kind of wordy. Where's my timer? I'm at 20 minutes. That's not too bad. China started. Let me pause it and find it. Yeah, guys. So I wanted to try to do this better so it doesn't. So it's not so like. But what China's talking about is I use Janet. I use my AI, and a lot of things that China's been doing is diversification of trade partners. So a lot of people don't know, but China has been. I'm trying to get this out more so it's not so like in my face. China's been talking to South America, and they're doing a lot of talks with South America. I think that's why Trump has been so big about the Panama Canal because China's over there. They're talking. We had when 2020, I want to say 2020, that we had Trump put tariffs on China, and China turned around and put tariffs on soybeans. And then China started sourcing soybeans from South America. But one thing that's really interesting that China has been doing is ahead of these tariffs, they started devaluing their currency, which makes their exports cheaper. So it gets back into a lot of people, like I said, the whole point of this video is for people to understand that the tariff is based on what the supplier cost pays. So if China is devaluing their capital, then that makes the cost cheaper for the person who's buying it. And if the price is cheaper for the person buying it, then that's less of a tariff that they're paying. Anyway, so and then China's been doing some things where they're starting to do almost like what we had, where we're giving like these checks to our to people in society and like saying, hey, these are these checks we're giving you, like we did during COVID. And so China's just is very it's been very strategic, a lot of this. And so we have to kind of see how that's going to work out because China's president, he's president for life. So he doesn't really have to, he has to wait out Trump. That's exactly what it is. He has to wait out Trump. And then when Trump's not there, he doesn't have to negotiate with Trump anymore. So he's just waiting these 4 years. Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add. Yo, so I started looking at, I went to Janet, right? And I was like, Janet! And I was like, how many sales do we do of Dodge Rams in a year? And she said 2023, they did about 539,000. She said it was a decrease. So then I said, okay, let's just make an assumption, right? That it's just 500,000. 500,000 units in a year, bro. In a year, Trump's taking in 6.2 billion, 6.2 billion in tariffs. If the units, this is the thing, this is the risk. This is the risk. The units have to stay the same. If the units stay the same, you're bringing in $6.2 billion in taxes to the government. This company is still making 18.7, is that trillion? I think trillion, thousand, million, right? Billions. This is trillions. I think it's trillions. I think it's trillions. It's trillions. Oh man, I'm on camera looking like I'm dumb. But but there's the risk. The risk is this. And you know what the risk is? I'm saying it. I'll give the man the respect. I'm gonna capitalize his name. Elon. Elon is the risk because Elon's doing the opposite of what's gonna keep units. If dude, we need more jobs. You need more people to be able to afford these products. You need workers. You need people who can afford these products. You need people out there spending money in the economy, injecting. You're drawing blood. You're not injecting. We need to inject. We need people with jobs. We need to grow these businesses. If these businesses are going to grow, we need people out there working at these businesses, growing. And we need sales reps selling these cars. We need people being able to have jobs so they can get a paycheck and they can afford this car. They need people who can take out loans and pay those loans and not default on those loans. 2008, man, housing crash. People couldn't pay for these houses. You had there's this neighborhood across the street from me. They finished it like it was like 10 years. They built like 4 or 5 houses, and it was the biggest eyesore ever because they had like all these empty lots. You had like a half-built house just sitting there, which I'm assuming you got to start over because it's been going through all the weather and everything. They just built the frame and just walked away. It was like, what the hell? And it's nice. It's a really nice neighborhood now. All the lots have been filled. They've built houses on all the lots. It's a really nice neighborhood. But the point is, you need people. The economy can't work if people can't buy things. As much money as you want to make, the economy does not work if people cannot buy things, if people are not buying things. So, if this is going to be our foreign policy to try to push and pull people into the United States, I'm all for it. If it works. And on the offset of that, that could be, if I was talking to Trump, he would probably say, well, that's why I'm doing this, because I want you to bring your factories into the United States. And if you bring your factories into the United States, then you will have jobs in the United States. That could work. And then the response to that is instead of these tariffs, he would get income taxes, which would be more actually. I think it should be more if he's getting income taxes from people. But then they're also going to get tax benefits, which is where Elon comes in and he's like, well, I'm going to slash these benefits. And it's like Elon's a risk. He's a risk. Anyway, I just wanted to put that last tidbit in there. We need jobs. We need jobs. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm 100% for this plan that Trump's doing it, but Trump's not going anywhere. So I got to make do with what I got.